Ahoy, shipmates! What a lovely day here in the port of Southampton, and made even better because, in case you're wondering, I'm the captain of the Solent Ships YouTube channel, and joining me is my good friend from Scotland, Fraser.
Yes, Balmoral.
Good afternoon, or ahoy, everybody. What a beautiful day in Southampton.
It is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And how have you been keeping them, Fraser? Hey, you've been busy. You were just telling me that you've been off on a few cruises.
Yeah, all good here. I have actually just completed, 5 cruises over the last 7 weeks, so I am delighted to be at home prior to heading down to Southampton the week after next to board my next cruise, which we'll fill you in on as we go through our live stream.
Yes, I'm just posting a link now because you've actually just made a little ship tour off Balmoral, and she's departing today. And I don't know when you went on Queen Mary 2, but it was relatively recently, wasn't it? You were on Queen Mary 2.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for sharing that link. Yeah, I was on Queen Mary 2 straight after she had her most recent refit, actually. So that would have been, as much as I hate to admit it was as long ago as this, it would have been last December, so December 2023, would that have been?
I think it might have been, yeah.
Yeah, so I boarded the ship in New York and then came back over to Southampton, which is the exact opposite of the route that she's heading off on today.
Yep, it was 2023, yeah. In case you don't know, do you want to give everyone a little idea of what you get up to on YouTube? I'm sure most people know you, but I'm sure there might be a few people who don't.
Yeah, sure, that would be great. So to anyone that hasn't met me or heard my dulcet tones before, I'm Fraser. It's lovely to see you all on the live stream. I have a channel here on YouTube where I use it to showcase all of my cruise experiences and share all of my hints and tips and share the things that go right and also, unfortunately, the things that go wrong, so that hopefully you can then have the best cruise possible when it comes to your time to being on board. So if you'd like to come and check out my channel, then you can find me by searching for Fraser at Sea, which the captain has very kindly popped on your screen in front of you. So yeah, thank you for having me on the live stream today.
Yeah, no, so it's good. So it's a pity because you were off on Balmoral next week, but you're not staying in port, are you? So we haven't got enough time to catch up for a beer at the Dancing Man.
I know, we always seem to catch up digitally in front of hundreds or thousands of people.
So I did hear on the radio that the Queen Mary 2 is singled up and she's ready to go at 4:30, which is when she's due away. Then at 5 o'clock we've got the Fred Olsen Balmoral to talk about the Queen Mary 2. So we often have ships leaving from here, from the port, that are going off for a refit, or they've come back in from a refit, because it's often they come in empty and obviously going out empty. Did you notice anything when you were on the Queen Mary 2 from the refit? Did they tell you what they did, or did you notice anything? As people often ask.
Yeah, it's a good question, and to be honest, it's usually quite difficult to tell what's changed as part of dry docks and refits, because when you're on board, the cruise lines tend to keep it quite quiet that the ship is fresh out of a dry dock. So yeah, there's no one sort of going round shouting about it. But what I did find was that the ship, given her age, was in what I would say is really good working order. There was all brand new carpets and all the public areas had been fully updated, which was lovely to see. The finding that I did have was that my cabin or stateroom on board was definitely needing a bit of love back then. So it would be great if in the future Cunard then looked to upgrade the cabins. But the public areas on here at the moment are looking absolutely fabulous.
Well, that's good to hear because Queen Mary 2 is 21 years old, so that is up in cruise ship years. That really getting up there. But I think some of the I did watch your cabin tour. It was quite interesting. There were definitely a few features there which I think are just fundamentally dated from a ship that old. But I'm not sure if you could do much about that, or if it's just part of the design.
I know, I mean, there's so many different things about QM2 when you look at how she is built in comparison to most modern cruise ships, but I think, yeah, the cabins are looking old. There are some quite quirky, quite nice features in there. I found that to be the case far more on Balmoral in a few cabins that I got into, which I'll share some of the things I found on there with you in a bit.
Yeah, yeah, that would be good. I think it's there. I think that some of the cruises on Balmoral are really interesting. I've been on a few of the ships now. Oh, sorry, a few of the Fred Olsen ships, but they are very different from, say, like a brand new P&O Avia or Princess Sky Princess or something. They are very different, but just different. I think not necessarily different in a bad way.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what I do, especially Balmoral, there's a lot of nods to her age all the way through the ship. So they're not sailing Balmoral trying to pretend to people it's a new ship. They've kept really nice touches from the ship's past, so you can actually go around and look for certain things that you just wouldn't find on cruise ships nowadays.
Oh, yeah, oh, that's good to hear. Yeah, it's been a while. I can't remember which ones I've been on. I think I've been on two, about Balmoral and the other ones. And yeah, I was just watching your video. It was quite interesting. Some of the points you were saying.
Yeah, what sort of itinerary did you try with Fred Olsen? Did you do Scotland or did you do the Med? Where did you head?
No, I just did ship visits in port.
Ah, okay.
I've
But
done,
the next stage then is to head off on a
yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I've done a lot of ship visits in ports, which is great because you get on board the ship and you get to wander around. Admittedly, you don't get to appreciate it at sea, but at least I can just jump on lots of different ships.
Yeah, it's just a crying shame when it gets to 4:30 p.m. and they do the tannoy announcement to
Yeah,
kick you off.
that's right. Yeah, you have to go up and pick your passport off and disappear.
Yeah, I can see someone in the chat, Captain, asking if I am Glaswegian. I absolutely am Glaswegian. I now live in the Midlands, so I live 5 hours south of Glasgow. But yes, guilty as charged, born and raised in Glasgow.
There we go. Glaswegian. Oh, no, that's not the camera that's working. Yeah, she's still tied up, Queen Mary 2 at the moment. But Queen Mary 2's off to New York. Then after that, I think she's coming straight back. I don't know how long she's in New York for. Let's have a quick look. I don't think it's very long. Did you go transatlantic? You went transatlantic from the other way, didn't you? You went New York to Southampton.
I did, yeah. You often find that QM2 will head over in one direction, spend just a day in New York, and then come back. So, what really surprised me was there was a lot of people on my eastbound, that would be transatlantic, who had just travelled from Southampton over, and then they spent just a few hours in New York to then come all the way back. I'm not sure. I do like the look of going one way and then coming back, but I feel as though I'd maybe want a little more time in New York.
I think that is exactly right. That would, I mean, where I ended up going to New York because the. Oh, hang on. I think we had some horns. Yep. Very.
It's very interesting being at this end of the live stream. I don't hear the horn, so I'll take your word for
Yeah,
that.
no, they were definitely they were a bit faint and they got a bit louder. So yeah, okay, she's on the move now then.
Well, QM2's got one of the most distinctive horns out there, so hopefully we'll get some more on the way out.
Yes, we had. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. We had Queen Anne and Queen Mary 2 in port. We've had them before,
Wow.
and what happens is one's further down the port and departs first, and then the other one departs afterwards. They don't pass each other. But that's what was going to happen again. But they changed the schedule, and then I think it was Queen Anne ended up passing Queen Mary 2. And yes, that was quite spectacular. A lot of shipmates very happy about all the honking for that.
Yeah, I often wonder if the locals in Southampton, I guess you are one, so you can maybe
Yes.
answer this for me. Do the locals love the ship's horns, or are they a real nuisance to people in the centre?
I think the one I've heard most complaints about are the Princess cruises.
Because they keep going.
Because the Princess have a quite a distinctive tune that, if I'm honest, it doesn't sound the most tuneful of tunes. And yes, and they normally let it go 2 or 3 times. So that is and lots of people complain about that. They're normally sat down Saturday afternoon, cup of tea and a biscuit, after being out shopping all day, and they're maybe having a little nap, and all of a sudden they get greeted with a flurry of noise from the port.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love when they're blasting their horns on the way out, but granted, I only put up with it for a few days a year.
Yeah, there has been a couple of shipmates saying that there should be a campaign to make it obligatory for all ships to blast their horns on the way out.
Yeah. We've got some people in the chat, Captain, who are actually live potentially on screen with us. We've got Graham, who is currently sat in Mayflower Park watching QM2 depart.
Oh yeah, there's quite a little collection of shipmates down here at the park. Quite a popular location, next to Mr. Whippy Man. Get an ice cream.
Yeah, we've also got Susan, who is on QM2 now. Susan, let us know in the chat where you are, and we can try and see you.
Oh yeah.
As you head out to sea.
Yeah, I didn't see any shipmates saying that they were going to be on the Queen Mary 2. Normally they let me know. It's amazing. Sometimes there'll be a ship in, and nobody on the channel seems to be on it. And then a couple of days later there'll be another ship in, and it's absolutely full of shipmates.
Yeah. Isn't it funny when you look at these cameras and it looks as though on some of these views there's no cruise ship in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't quite see around the corner of the building. It's a bit of a problem, but I'm hoping to have a solution for that. Well, there is plenty of shipmates in the chat. I'll just have a quick brief through to Hoyd. Hoyd to Elizabeth Leeborn. Hoy there Tamara. Hoy Edward Coates. Hoy Hades. Hoy Elizabeth Leeborn. I think that's just about covered everyone. Yeah, if you do have any chats, just stick them in the chat, and we'll try and get to them. I suspect Fraser might be better at picking up the questions than I am at the moment.
Yeah, I can keep an eye on the chat and see what's coming through. What is being set up at the moment, Captain? Any idea?
Well, it looks to me like the fake festivals. So you'll have these things like, I don't know, I can't think of the names of all these fake bands, but like the knockoff Red Hot Chili Peppers and the knockoff Billy Idol and all those sorts of bands. It's actually quite good from years gone past. So they're all, what do they call those bands that are
tributes.
Yeah, tribute bands. Yeah. So they're all tribute bands, but it's but yeah, they're generally quite good. I think this must be second or third year it's been here, or maybe even more. Yeah, I've not been.
That's cool. I've never come across that type of event before. We had a band up here in the Midlands. Instead of being called Kings of Leon, they were called the Kings of Neon.
Yeah, they've got some great alternative names, haven't they? I just can't think of any.
Yeah, far more imaginative than I am.
Okay, question here from shipmate Aileen Warren. I assume she's talking about Queen Mary 2. She says, "Can Fraser tell me, do you hear much noise from adjoining cabins?"
This is a good question. This is a question that I get asked all the time, particularly from people who are maybe newer to cruising. What I would say, Elaine, is that if you do book an adjoining cabin, it depends on a whole number of factors, but generally speaking, I think you do get more noise passing through in an adjoining cabin than you would in a standard standalone cabin, and for that reason I always try to not book them. But that said, it also depends on the ship. I've been on some ships where in an adjoining cabin it's absolutely fine. 9 times out of 10 it will be totally fine, but you sometimes still do have that 1 out of 10 where you can have a bit of a problem. But to be honest, that's few and far between, so I wouldn't worry too much. You might get a little bit of noise coming through, but people generally speaking don't make a huge amount of noise in their cabin anyway,
Yeah. I'd say that's pretty accurate. I did notice on the last ship I went on, Norwegian Aqua, which happened to be an adjoining cabin, and it was quite a substantial door on my side, and obviously the same door on the other side, so I didn't hear a dicky bird. So
yeah, especially on the newer ships like Aqua, that's certainly not going to be an issue, because I think, to be honest, most of the cruise lines now know that people are concerned about that, so they do things like, as you're saying there, put double doors in and things like that, so that it's not easy to pass through, you know.
Yeah. Although, rather amusingly, we did hit some bumpy water on our way to the Azores. Lots of people were complaining about the ship was rocking and rolling around, but then lots of people were complaining about the noise in the cabin. And one of the biggest
Oh.
complaints I heard was people complaining about the coat hangers knocking against each other.
Ah, yes. Well, I mean, that's one thing people never realise when they take their first cruise. So I took my mum on her first cruise 2 weeks ago, and she thought I was absolutely mad on the final night of the cruise, putting all my coat hangers on the floor after I'd packed my bag, because otherwise, when the ship manoeuvres into port, all you'll hear is clang, clang, clang all
Yeah.
night long.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a number of people, we were in the bar somewhere, a number of solutions were coming out. People saying, we'll just take them off. And someone else was saying, we'll just take a towel and put a towel over them. And that stops them moving around. And so I was like, oh, yeah, it was quite ingenious. I can't say I noticed I had earplugs in. So.
Isn't it funny the different tactics people come up with?
Yeah. Although someone else, in their cabin, they had what the chap described to me as it sounded like an electrical cable hitting the wall behind his bed. Obviously, it's a brand new ship, and he said he didn't hear it for the first couple of days. When we started hitting rough seas, it was just constantly bang, bang, bang. So he complained to Norwegian, and they moved him. So that was fine.
Did you get rough seas? Well, you obviously did get
Yeah,
rough
yeah,
seas.
we had
crossing the Atlantic.
Yeah, we had sort of 5-10 meter seas. Well, we were supposed to go to Boston, but we had to divert south and go around because it was so rough. So yeah, it was sort of 5-10 meter seas.
Wow.
I quite enjoyed it, but apparently other people didn't.
I can also see our girl coming into shot now.
Yep, he's on screen.
There's proof that we have a ship in port.
So I can't remember where your cabin was on Queen Mary. Was it an inside cabin, wasn't it?
Yes. So I spent my cruise in an inside cabin. I can't remember which deck. I was on. It was fairly midship though, from memory. And so many people had said to me, well, when you cross the Atlantic, surely you want a balcony, or you at least want a window. But, do you know, as a solo traveller, I spend very little time in my cabin when I cruise, and an inside on there was absolutely fine.
Yep, I quite agree, because there's plenty of common space, isn't there, all over the ship?
Yeah, and we were fortunate that our conditions were pretty good. I mean, if there's one ship that you want to experience bad weather in crossing the Atlantic, it's got to be QM2, because, I mean, she's been designed for that specific purpose of crossing over that body of water.
Oh, yeah,
But
absolutely.
we were blessed with pretty smooth seas, which was great.
Yes, when we went south to avoid the weather, Queen Mary 2 just went straight across as per normal.
Yeah. I can actually see a comment there from Artemis saying, I hope that hairdryer isn't still there. So, yes, in my cabin, I had an entirely burnt through hairdryer, unfortunately. So,
That's right, I remember, yeah.
yes, I also hope the hairdryer isn't still there. So, Captain, have you sailed on QM2?
I have not. No, I've not. I've not even been on Queen Mary 2. I was trying to get on board. I went on a cruise a while back, and Queen Mary 2 had a mechanical problem, so she ended up staying in Southampton. Then there was this really bargain cruise, I think it was something like £99 to go to Liverpool and come back. And I was only that was like 2 days after coming back from another cruise, and I just couldn't fit it in, which was a bit of a shame because it would have been perfect.
Yeah, there have been some fantastic deals on Cunard ships recently. I saw some really good deals actually on Queen Anne, who's been doing the 2-night cruises, I think it is, between Southampton and Hamburg. It might even be a 1-night cruise. But if you're flexible and if you're able to travel, then there are some fantastic prices to experience these stunning ships at the moment.
Yes, my channel sponsor Paul sent me over some cruises on Queen Anne, and I was quite surprised. Now he's got one here, it's 18 nights for May next year, and that's from 1600 for an inside cabin. That's a Greece, Adriatic, and Western Mediterranean cruise.
Which ship is that?
That's Queen Anne.
Ah, nice.
And this is a British Isles cruise, calling in at Cove for Cork. 2 nights in Liverpool, Isle of Mull, Oban, Invergordon, and then Queen's Ferry. That's 12 nights, and that's from 900 for an inside cabin.
What a lovely route.
Yeah, you probably know a little bit about some of those locations.
Yeah, yeah. When you were looking at Oban, I actually used to work in Oban,
Oh,
and
right.
I remember the cruise ships coming in and yeah, flooding the town.
Oh, really? Well, I guess because Open's probably not that large, is it? So.
Oh, it's really not. Not when you have 2 or 3 thousand people coming in on a cruise ship, all wanting to get fish and chips at the pier.
I'm quite interested to go on some of these cruises that go past the Isle of Mull. I've got a particular interest in an island that's next to Mull called Ulva, so I'm guessing I'd probably see the Ulva Island from as I pass by. Yeah, Queen Mary 2 always seems to blast the horns just as she's passing the camera here as well.
What an absolutely stunning shot you've got there. I'll always remember pulling up outside the terminal in Brooklyn in New York, and I remember looking up at QM2 and thinking, wow, I didn't think this ship was anywhere near as large as she actually is. But she's unlike any other ship that's out there, isn't she?
Yeah, she's as long as most of the cruise ships, like Avia and any of the big cruise ships. She's about the same length, but what she
Yeah,
is taller and narrower. So it just makes her look, I think, even more impressively large, even though she's not.
yeah. I just find QM2 is such an attractive ship. I was looking at the differences between the two ships that we'll be watching today. And when you look at the length of these ships, QM2 comes in at 345 metres, but Balmoral comes in at 218 metres. So we're looking at two incredibly different ships today.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. You were talking about the travelling solo. I was talking to some shipmates on Norwegian Aqua when we were there, and they have a whole solo studio area for solo travellers.
Yes, they do. So I am actually not long back from Norwegian Breakaway. So I was on Breakaway about 3 weeks ago now over in the Mediterranean, and they have some fantastic facilities for solo travelers. So if you book an interior studio cabin on Norwegian, you actually get access to a whole part of the ship that no other passengers can get into.
That's right. And how did you find it?
Um, I I love it. So in there you've got all of the studio cabins, and you've also got what they call the studio lounge, and you've got a coffee machine. There's loads of snacks that are served all day. And what was really great on Breakaway was they also have a bar in there that's then manned for 2 hours a day. So it's a really nice place to go in, have a beer or a glass of wine or whatever, and meet some fellow solo passengers. Now, I actually wasn't staying in a solo interior cabin, but I booked an ocean view cabin, so I had the luxury of having a window, but still having access to that part of the ship.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah. I spoke
Yeah,
to quite a few shipmates on Norwegian Aqua, and they're all singing the praises of the solo traveller area. Although the only criticism I heard from someone was that the bathroom is part of the sort of cabin. So if you're in the bathroom, there's like a glass screen between, which makes the cabin feel bigger. So I can understand the logic behind it. And then we were all sort of turned around and said, well, does it matter? Because there's no one else in the cabin apart from you. And if there's someone else in
yeah.
there, you probably don't need to worry about it, do you?
If there's someone else in there, they shouldn't be getting
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
One thing that's really surprising me at the moment here is that the top decks of QM2 look pretty quiet considering how glorious the weather is. I thought they would be packed.
Yes. I can't quite work it out. Sometimes you can have lots of people on board, and sometimes you on the top decks, and sometimes you don't have any. I don't never work out the logic between why that happens. But you're
Yeah, I
right.
guess this side of the ship looks as though it's in the shade, so not unless everyone is currently on their balconies on the other side.
Potentially, unless they're at the stern.
Let's wait and see. Is there a... Oh, actually, let me think. QM2... Ah, there is a bar at the stern, yeah.
There is,
You
yeah.
might be right.
Yeah. I don't know how many. I haven't had any figures off. Unfortunately, I've got the radio off, so if someone else, well, maybe one of the spanners can. If they hear some passenger numbers, they'll be able to stick them in there. She's off to New York. It's a 7-day round trip. Well, sorry, 7-day trip to New York, and then a 7-day trip back from New York. So, like Fraser was saying earlier, if a lot of people do enjoy just travelling transatlantic, and then having 4 or 5 hours in New York, I mean, not much to see. Nip over to go and see Trump Tower, I suppose. I saw
It
that.
must be a very funny feeling leaving Southampton today, knowing that in 7 nights' time you're going to arrive in New York and stop nowhere in between.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's a very odd sensation, isn't it? When we went to New York, it was actually 10 days due to the diversion.
Of course, that was because of the weather, right?
Mm-hmm, yep. And we spoke to a couple of quite a few of the crew, because they gave us a technical talk, and some of the questions were quite interesting. Somebody asked, "Is there enough fuel on board to get to New York?" Yeah, I was thinking that's probably not the time to be asking when you're already sort of halfway there. It was great.
I'd have really liked to have seen how everyone reacted if the answer was unfortunately not.
Yeah,
Unfortunately not, but your life jacket was under the bed.
exactly. Yeah. But what they did say is, all of the sort of officers and deck crew, most of them had been at sea for 30 years or more. Not a single one of them had been at sea for more than 8 days without calling in at a port. So this was all...
Wow, really?
Yeah, this was all breaking a record for them. Because, they just don't go that far without calling in at a port normally, do they? So...
Wow. I guess, yeah, on most typical transatlantics, they'd be going between, maybe Madeira and the Caribbean somewhere?
Yeah,
so,
or the Azores or something, yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, the back of the ship is busy today, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, there was people asking questions about water. Will we run out of water? They were quite good about it, really. They had lots of questions. They were explaining that the ship makes water as it goes, so water's not a problem. And then they were asking about food. Is there enough food on board? And they said, yes, there's no problem with food.
Will the buffet still be 24 hours?
Yeah, okay, exactly, yeah. So really, it was pretty good. But yeah, it was just interesting hearing the technical talk from various different people on board.
Yeah, just looking at the Apple section of Q&A there, one of my absolute favourite memories of crossing the Atlantic on that ship. Now, bear in mind I crossed the Atlantic mid-December, so the weather was the polar opposite of what it is today. It was freezing cold, and there seemed to be a real buzz around all the passengers with people trying to find out who had swam in the pools on the way across the Atlantic and who hadn't, because it's a real bucket list thing to say that you've swam in the swimming pool at the back of the ship.
Oh, really?
As you're going across the Atlantic.
Oh, right. Didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, it was actually every day people would be out on deck and they'd be saying, "Oh, have you gone in yet? Have you gone in yet? You have to go in."
I take it that the swimming pool's not desperately well heated then.
Oh, no, I mean, there's only so much heating that you can do when it's fully outdoors in the middle of winter.
Yeah, exactly. I must say the hot tub on Aqua was very enjoyable.
Yeah, the hot tubs are absolutely beautiful on some of these ships. On QM2, you've also got hot tubs down at that back section there. So I think if I was choosing between a swim in the outdoor pool or a hot tub with potentially a beverage, I think I know what one I'd be choosing.
Yes, I think you'll probably be in the same place I will be. How did you find the restaurants and general evenings on board? Because a couple of people have asked questions about, is it a bit stuffy, Cunard? Do you have to wear black tie every time you go to dinner and things like that?
Yeah, this is one thing that, to be honest, I was concerned before my first Cunard cruise, because I thought, I'm not going to fit in, and it's going to be really formal, and I just won't feel comfortable on there. But to be honest, it's one of those ships and one of those cruise lines that if you want to be really formal all the time at dinner, then you can be. But if you want to be a bit more relaxed, then you also can be. The only thing you have to be mindful of is that if you don't want to be formal, then you're not going to be able to dine in the main dining rooms on some of the nights of your cruise. Cunard is definitely the strictest that I think I've been on from a dress code point of view, because every night on board Queen Mary 2, or well, every night on board all of the Cunard ships, the dress code is smart attire, and then there'll be a couple of nights of the cruise where it will then become gala attire. So most cruise lines out there, they'll operate with maybe smart casual in the evening, and then they'll have a formal night once or twice a cruise. But in my experience on QM2, every night was smart, so already elevated above what a lot of other cruise lines require. And then the gala nights would be over and above that as well. So I found that if I would go for dinner wearing chinos and a shirt and a blazer or a jacket, then that would be absolutely fine. But I did meet quite a lot of people on board who said, oh, I didn't realise that I'd need to do that, so we've been eating in the buffet most of the time.
Oh, blimey, that's that's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it wouldn't be ideal. But I guess Cunard do quite a good job before the cruise of sending various emails to you to let you know what formal nights there's going to be. At the point of my cruise, I don't know if they still do it, but I got a really nice, what did they call it? It was something like a voyage pack that they sent to your home address. And in there, it walked you through the various dress codes and all the theme nights that there were. So they do a good job of prepping you so that you don't get surprised when you board the ship.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I would have thought most people would know, but no, you're right. Perhaps you just don't know.
There's always someone that packs 7 pairs of shorts for dinner.
Yes. I mean, there was one thing I was slightly disappointed about the Norwegian ship was there was no formal night of any shape or form. So I think it's quite nice.
Oh, of course, because Norwegian are fully freestyle now.
Yeah, but I quite like. I mean, I'm not saying everyone has to, but it's quite nice to dress up. All the ladies like to dress up anyway. I know that much.
Yeah. Yeah, personally, I'm sort of 50-50 on it. I do enjoy a formal night, but I also enjoy wearing to dinner whatever I want to wear to dinner, you know?
Yeah. So
I can see in the chat, Captain, we've got Zoe Gibson, ahoy Captain and Fraser from sunny Staffordshire. Well, I am currently in sunny Derbyshire, so I am right next door to you, Zoe.
There we go, local.
Furthest away place from the ocean, unfortunately, but we're here and it's sunny.
I did notice excellent span of Matt King. He was also been listening to the radio. So 2,432 passengers, 1,256 crew. That Queen Mary 2 has maximum double occupancy of 2,726. So relatively full ship. A little bit of space there.
Yeah.
How busy was Queen Mary 2 when you were on there? Did you find it really busy?
Apparently fully sold out while I was on board. However, I do think that QM2 is a ship that handles crowds or handles passenger volumes quite well. There's a number of different venues on board QM2 that allow passengers to spread out. So, for example, during the day, you've got the main theatre, which is where a lot of the Cunard Insights lectures take place. But they've also got a venue which is a planetarium, which is another theatre venue. So you find by the time you've got something on in the planetarium, something on in the main theatre, afternoon tea on in the Queen's Room, and something else doing music at one of the bars, people do spread out. So, I mean, I was on there, as I mentioned, the height of winter, so the top decks were quiet, but inside the ship itself, never really felt too busy at any point in time.
Top tip from a couple of shipmates of mine that went on Queen Mary 2, they always said the planetarium was really busy and they could struggle to get in there. So, but they had two sittings. They have an English language sitting and a German sitting. So they went into the German sitting and there wasn't hardly anyone in the German sitting. And the people on the front door said, "Oh, but do you speak German?" They said, "No, but you're just looking at the stars, aren't you? So it doesn't really matter."
Yeah, the sky is the same regardless of the language.
Exactly. Right, so we've got...
It looks as though Balmoral's heading out.
Yes, Balmoral's on the move. She's leaving more or less on the dot. Very good, very well-behaved ships this evening. Well, Balmoral, she's departing on we were talking about this, a itinerary right up your street. She's parting on a 7-night round-trip wildlife culture of the scenic Scottish Isles. So I'm guessing that's probably, seal spotting or something like that? I don't really know. Falmouth.
Yeah, so
calling it
Oh, sorry,
Falmouth. Yeah, calling it Falmouth. Then Stornoway, Isle of Lewis and Harris, Kirkwall in the Orkney Isles. Then back into Southampton. Yeah. So what sort of wildlife do you think they'll be seeing?
So I actually did a very similar cruise to this just last week. Um, I was on Baletta, so the sister ship to Balmoral, or one of the fleet mates rather, and I cruised out of Liverpool. So the ports that I took in, which were the same as this itinerary, were Portree on the Isle of Skye, and Storn. Actually, this ship isn't going to Stornoway, is it? Or is Kirkwall Stornoway?
Stornoway. Yeah, Isle of Lewis and Harris. Yeah. Then
That
Kirkwall.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did those two ports and then did some scenic cruising on the way back down. And the wildlife, honestly, the wildlife I was blown away by. So from the ship, we
Oh
spotted whales. We
no,
spotted,
really, Wales.
yeah,
Where did?
yeah,
Where
not
did?
the country, the animal. We also spotted dolphins. We spotted puffins. There were a lot of puffins.
Oh yeah, which island's that on? There's an island, isn't there, that's full of puffins?
That was when we got towards Fingal's Cave.
Yes.
And I think I can't remember the isle that they're on, but they're all sort of as soon as you get close to sort of Mull, Iona, that part of the world, you
Yes.
get into puffin territory.
That's it.
But I'd never ever seen a puffin before. They're beautiful.
Yeah, they certainly are. Pretty funny little things. Gosh, I didn't realise you'd see so much from a cruise ship. Yeah.
Yeah, so Fred Olsen have got a partnership at the moment with a charity called Orca, and you'll find reps from Orca out on deck who are essentially monitoring the wildlife and they help you to spot things. So on Baletta, they've got a great observation deck, which is at the very front of deck 6, I believe. And the Orca team would be out there for, 5, 6, 7 hours at a time. I don't know how they did it with that cold wind, but they'd be out there and you could go and join them and they would say, oh, here's a set of binoculars, let's look and see what we can see. And then when they would spot something, they would then record it on their mobile app. So it's very clever how they do it, and they're able to track what wildlife they're spotting and where on some of these cruise itineraries.
That's pretty impressive. I'm trying to think. I was on a ship and they had something similar. They had a wildlife group that were there spotting, and they would also give you talks and tell you where to look and things like that. I can't think what that was, but yeah, it seems to be a popular thing.
Yeah, I really enjoy when you get that, because when I started cruising, I thought, oh, well, I'm on a ship and that's going out to sea, so surely there's going to be dolphins and whales everywhere. And I remember leaving my first cruise actually fairly disheartened because I thought, oh, I've been looking at the ocean all this time and I've never spotted anything. But it's such a huge help when you've got people out on deck that know what they're looking for.
Yes, at least point you in the right direction, so at least you can look at a certain right area. Yeah, I've got a couple of prices here from Paul from Love Cruise, our channel sponsor. This is Balmoral for later in the month. This is a scenic waterways and cities of Scandinavia. Isn't this similar to what you're thinking about doing?
What date is that? The 28th. I am on that cruise. Is that
That's
a
what I
week
thought.
On? Yeah, it's a week on
Yeah.
Wednesday. I'm on that cruise.
So there we go. So if you want to join Fraser, this is Southampton, a couple of days at sea, then Oslo in Norway, cruising Olsefjord, Gothenburg in Sweden, Copenhagen in Denmark, the Kiel Canal transit, which you were telling me earlier that's one of your things to do, isn't it? The Kiel Canal. You haven't done the Kiel Canal. No, you have done the Kiel Canal. It's the other one you wanted to do.
No, I've never done the Kiel Canal. I'm so excited to do it on this cruise. I've done the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal, but the Kiel Canal and the Corinth Canal remain on my to-do list.
It was the Corinth Canal, yeah, that one looked particularly spectacular. Anyway, the prices on Balmoral for later on, well, next week, that's from £1,000 for inside cabin. Seems pretty good for me for 8 nights. Now, what else have we got? We have a 6-nighter for December. Might be a bit chilly. And that's Rouen in France overnight, Antwerp in Belgium overnight, and then back to Southampton. I do notice that the advantage of the Balmoral, or the Fred Olsen ships in general, because they do tend to be smaller than P&O's offerings, and likewise, they get into much smaller ports, don't they? They get a much more interesting itinerary.
They do. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And one thing that I found to be particularly impressive on Balmoral was the scenic cruising aspect of it. Now, when you go to places like Norway, for example, if you go and check out the fjords with Fred Olsen, you'll be able to get up fjords that the big ships simply cannot get up. And I was docked in Stavanger beside a huge cruise ship, which will remain nameless, from a huge British cruise line. And Balmoral was about a fifth of the size of that ship. And I thought, oh my goodness, how can that other ship fit anywhere here?
Yeah, I know. It is amazing. It is slightly disconcerting when you're on the really large ships going down the fields because it doesn't look like there's much space to spare. I was
No.
watching your review of Balmoral earlier, and I've forgotten the name of the restaurant, but there was that, I think it's the main restaurant. But you were saying about the food; it's a sort of fusion cuisine, and I have to say, the couple of times I've been on the Fred ships, and they always give you the samples. I'm very impressed by the food on board the Fred Olsen ships. It's right up there with some of the best, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was very impressed with the food in the main dining room on Balmoral. But when you then look at speciality, it's, to be honest, the speciality food on here is genuinely some of the tastiest that I've ever had on a cruise ship. So on Balmoral, they only have one speciality venue, and it's called Colours and Tastes. And it's not expensive. I think if you book before the cruise, it costs £15 per person, I think.
Oh wow!
Or when you get on board, it's £20 per person. So it's only £5 of a difference to book on board versus before. But the quality you're getting for that price is absolutely fantastic. And I was on Balmoral for 10 nights, I think, and I ended up eating there twice.
Yeah, I certainly was. I can't remember what it's called. Would you say it was Colours and something?
Tastes.
Tastes and Colours. Yes, that was the one. Yeah, it was very impressive. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I think it really suited the English palate as well because it's sort of slightly Chinesey, slightly Indian-y, but just really good flavours and tastes.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't too sure. I wasn't too sure what to expect by. I think it was sold to us as Asian fusion, I think, and I'm never too sure what that's going to be. But I was really, really pleasantly surprised on here. I should say that if anyone is interested watching the live right now and seeing a little bit more from on board Balmoral, then feel free to head over to my channel and you'll find my full ship tour, which interestingly went live last night.
It's almost like you knew, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I can't believe the coincidence of our timings on that one. Of course, Balmoral is leaving Southampton today.
So you're off on Balmoral in a little week's time or so.
Yeah, that's right. So I am boarding in Southampton, actually. So we might even appear on camera at some point. So I'll be making the drive down from the Midlands to board on the 28th, and I'm going on that cruise with my mum.
Oh, excellent! Oh, is she a big cruiser as well?
No, believe it or not, no. Growing up, she was always slightly horrified at the thought of taking a cruise. She's never been a huge fan of going on a ship or going on a boat, following a few difficult or tricky experiences on the ferry crossing to Ireland when we were children.
Oh, that's not the easiest of rides. Sometimes going across the Irish Sea, is it?
Yeah, so I think she assumed that all cruise ships would deliver that sort of onboard experience. So I think she's thought I was mad going on all of these cruises up until now. She went on her first ever cruise, which was the Scottish one, a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And absolutely loved it. And she would just keep saying, I can't wait to get back on. And I honestly am counting my blessings that she loved it, because we've obviously got our next one just around the corner.
That's fantastic. So have you got much more planned for the rest of the year, or are you waiting for...
I actually have a pile planned this year, yes. So I think by the end of the year, I think it's looking like maybe an 11 or 12 cruise year this year. So yes, I won't bore you to death with all of them, but yeah, I'm actually getting on my first Celebrity Edge class cruise this year too.
Okay.
Which I'm very, very excited about. Couldn't be more different from the two ships that we're watching today.
No, very different. I always think of the Celebrity ships are a bit like sort of boutique hotels, a little bit quirky, a little bit odd, but very good.
Yeah, don't speak to their marketing team and use the word odd.
Well, I mean, odd in an interesting way, just quirky, like a boutique hotel.
Yeah,
I think they're the ones
yeah,
with the grass on the top decks, aren't they? The celebrity ships.
that's right. Yeah, so Silhouette was here right after the pandemic closed down, and over the years they've sort of, I guess, upgraded into various ship classes and edge classes. The brand new one that they've got, so they've got Celebrity Edge, Celebrity Beyond, Celebrity Ascent, and Celebrity Excel, which is coming soon. But that's the celebrity ship that's got this, I think, relatively obnoxious looking flying carpet or magic carpet, the big orange thing that hangs off the side.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, I think I think I referred to it as the flying carpet the other week, and people said no, it's not. It's the magic carpet. I think.
The fly, the flying carpet. Isn't Balmoral a really cute ship? Just looking at her sailing out there, she's such a beautiful size.
Well, you were saying earlier, actually, you've just reminded me that she sort of somewhat is like a mini version of a Queen Mary 2. Red funnel, blue hull, and even got the swept back stern, and not it's not too much like a block of flats. So they are somewhat like big ship and little ship.
Yeah, 100%. That is probably the element that surprised me most while on board. The fact that Balmoral to me did feel like a mini Queen Mary 2. Even just simple things like every day on QM2 crossing the Atlantic, people would love to go out and do their laps of the promenade deck. And I loved that element of Balmoral. Everybody was out every single morning pacing the decks, and it really felt as though you were on a little mini ocean liner.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so people were treating it in a similar fashion.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that I found really great on Balmoral is if you look, I'll just wait for the camera to
Yeah, she
maybe
disappears
pan
behind.
across to get a different view. Ah, there we go. If you
Unfortunately,
look under the funnel, there's these huge round windows. Can you see them?
you'll be lacking behind the stream, unfortunately.
Ah, I
But yes,
might be
but
delayed.
if you give me a couple of seconds, I'll zoom in on them.
Yeah, I'll keep talking anyway
Yeah,
until
you keep talking.
until we can zoom in. But just underneath the funnel, there's these huge round porthole-like windows, and they're actually on both sides of the ship, and they are the Spey restaurant and the Avon restaurant, and they are totally included in your cruise fare. They are, I guess, just a different dining venue to what you'll find down in what would be the main dining room, but the views up there are absolutely stunning.
Oh
I
yes,
love when you get an included dining venue that's got a lovely view.
I think yes, because you in your review, some of the restaurants had amazing amounts of glass. I was quite surprised really, considering it was an old ship.
Yeah, they look very much like speciality venues. It
Yeah.
did surprise me to find out that you could go in there for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and it was totally included. So on a Fred Olsen cruise, you're assigned to one restaurant for dinner. So I was in the main restaurant down on deck 6 for dinner, but I could use these other restaurants for breakfast or lunch, which was really nice to mix it up a little so you weren't fixed in the same venue for every meal of the cruise.
Ah, that's yeah. You mentioned that. So your assigned dining, was it the same? Did you have the same table or just the same restaurant?
Yeah, so I had the same table and the same waiter, so it was nice because you then get to know your waiting staff really well. A lot of people like this really modern freestyle cruising where you don't really meet the waiting staff any other times than just one meal, but I actually still quite like the much more traditional concept of sort of getting to know your server on a deeper level than what the freestyle concept of cruising allows.
Really, it's really tricky because I'm sort of torn between the two. I quite enjoy randomly going over the ship and going to wherever I like, but then equally, I quite like meeting people on the table I'm sitting with. So we quite often just go as a couple and then queue up to get onto one of the restaurants, and they'll say, well, if you want a table by yourself, you have to wait, but also you can join in the table. And that's quite enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah, that's the big difference between traditional and freestyle has got to be around dining times more than anything. So with Norwegian, for example, if you're hungry, you turn up and go for dinner. Whereas
Yes.
on a lot of these other cruise ships, Balmoral included, you'll be dining in either the first sitting or the second sitting. And if you want to dine outside of that, then you can do that, but you'll probably be at the buffet.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
I can't believe the weather you've got there today. It's like we're watching these ships leave in the middle of summer.
I know, but it's still got a slightly chilly north winds though.
Mm.
that's been the issue lately.
Yeah, I think the problem is as soon as you're not in the sun, you begin to shiver a little.
Yes. So how did you find the staff on board? Because you said you got to be friendly with staff on the restaurant. I've always thought they've
On
been
board
very good.
Balmoral?
Yeah, oh, sorry, on board Balmoral, yes.
Yeah, I found that the crew on here were potentially among the best crew that I've seen at sea. I really enjoyed the fact that I I feel like with Fred Olsen operating older cruise ships, they know that what's not going to set them apart from the competition is the facilities on the ship. The ships are beautiful, but they're not really that different to a lot of what the other cruise lines are offering. But what I did feel set them apart was the attentiveness from the crew, and even just really simple things like by the time I left my cabin on the morning of day two, my cabin steward knew my name, and I was coming back on board, and the person that was working behind the bar knew that I enjoyed a Malbec, so they would pour a glass of that wine when
That's
I would walk in it. That maybe says a lot about me.
yeah. No, but that's pretty good. I would agree. I've experienced the same thing. They're very good. And talking about the age of the ship, the Balmoral is 37 years old.
That's right,
Yeah.
which is absolutely astounding. So, what blew my mind is that Balmoral is significantly older than I am,
Oh gosh. Well,
and
yeah,
I feel old at times.
yeah. Well, actually, I think we'll end that conversation now.
Yeah, let's move on
Yeah.
quickly.
But yeah, 37 years old. She's got a maximum capacity of about 1,400 passengers and 510 crew. So quite, almost basically half the size of Queen Mary 2, physically, crew and staff and everything.
Yeah, one thing that I enjoyed about Balmoral is that so the background here is that the Fred Olsen family have got quite strong links to Scotland, and they still own a family estate up in Scotland. And when you look at the crest or the ship logo for Balmoral, it depicts the royal family Scottish residence, which is Balmoral Castle. And there are so many touches all throughout this ship, which nod really quite nicely to Scotland. So I think everybody on that ship this week, this will be such a lovely ship to go and then experience Scotland on.
Yeah, so I didn't realise that. So I was watching your little film about it. I didn't realise it had such Scottish ties. I mean, I know the name Balmoral was Scottish, but I didn't realise it was such strong Scottish ties. Although I did see a question earlier about formal nights, and someone was asking why you don't wear a kilt to a formal night.
Oh, yes, I saw this as well. I think I think that was Stephen actually further up in the chat. I meant to mention that and then got distracted. Yes, so the reason I don't wear a kilt for formal night, being really truthfully honest, is because a kilt weighs a ton, and I already travel pretty heavily. So,
Oh, do they weigh that? Do they weigh a lot that much then?
oh, they're heavy, yeah. The problem with a kilt is that you have the kilt itself, but you then have the socks, the shoes, the shirt, the waistcoat, the jacket. And
Oh,
so
right, yeah,
I
of
grew up
course.
playing the bagpipes, so I travelled the length of the country with a set of bagpipes and a kilt week after week. And yes, I can't think of much worse than heaving all of that onto a cruise.
Okay, yeah, okay, that makes sense because that does sound like quite a lot to be carrying around.
It surprises me, that you don't see more people in kilts on cruises.
I
Maybe
did,
there'll be quite a few on Balmoral this week.
yeah, I did see there was a couple of people. There was certainly one chap on Aqua that had a kilt. I don't think he had the whole jacket and everything, but he certainly had. No, he had a jacket. He had a kilt and a jacket on. Yeah, he did have a kilt on. Maybe
Oh, now that is formal for a cruise ship that doesn't do formal.
yeah, maybe. Yeah. I remember. I did have a kilt many years ago. I'm not quite sure what happened to it, but it's a local company when I lived in the States, and they're called Utilikilt. And
Okay.
you know how you see guys on building sites with these trousers with loads of pockets all over them. So
Yeah.
it was essentially a kilt version of that. So it was this kilt.
What I will say is that the Scot in me listening to that has just shriveled up and died a little.
Yeah. Yes, it was an interesting prospect.
I'm going to have to Google that. I'll let you know in due course if that passes the kilt test or if that would just be a skirt with pockets.
No. I'll put the link up. I think it's quite impressive. Yeah. There we go. Here's the link here. Utilikill. Yeah, I think they're quite nifty.
Oh wow! Ah, okay, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, you get some of the quirky bands actually wear these.
Yeah, I mean, you could just see somebody, can't you, out in the woods, having just fallen a tree, lumberjacking, and then just sharpening his axe on the bit of leather on the side of his kilt.
Yes. Well, in which case, I look forward to Captain bumping into you on board Balmoral or Queen Mary 2 one day in a leather kilt.
Well, I'll have to get one because unfortunately, I don't know what happened to it. But yes, they're based in Seattle. We're just down the road from where I used to live.
Oh wow!
Right then, Fraser, I think we're slowly drawing to a close.
Yeah, it looks as though we are out at sea now.
Yeah, it's unfortunately much as I complain about it being dark or windy or wet or raining, and then I wish for the sun, and then when we get the sun, annoyingly, you can't see much of the ship because the sun's coming straight at the camera. So I'm just never happy. Basically, that's the problem with the captain. He's never happy with anything that's going on.
Yeah,
But
hopefully that problem's only going to get worse with the sunshine over summer. Fingers crossed.
Yes, absolutely. But if you have enjoyed Fraser, do check out his channel. I'll stick up a quick link to his video, and you can find his channel there. That's his video on Balmoral. If you want to see more on board of Balmoral, watch Fraser's video. We will be back tomorrow for 5 ships tomorrow. 5 ship Saturday. And what have we got? We've got the Norwegian Star, the Celebrity Apex, Sky Princess, the MSC Virtuosa, and the Iona. Have you been on Norwegian Star, Fraser?
I've never been on Norwegian Star, but listening to that lineup, Southampton is going to be busy tomorrow. That's a few big ships.
Oh yeah, and we've got 3
Wow.
ships departing at 4 o'clock.
Wow.
And then one at 5:30 and one at 6. So hopefully we'll all be done by galley time.
Yeah. To anyone in Southampton, if you're going down for your ice cream, try and not tie it in during embarkation time, because that is not when you want to be on that road.
Oh gosh, no. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
that must be what, 16, 17,000, if not more people trying to get on ships that day. Wow.
Yeah. Yes, knocking on 20,000. Yeah, that's a lot of people. And then if there's a Southampton Football Club game on at the same time, then that's another. Well, I was going to say 30,000, but the way they're playing at the moment, probably another 10,000.
No comment.
Yeah. Excellent. So you'll be off next week on Balmoral.
Yeah, so I'll be boarding Balmoral on the 28th. So if anyone else is booked on there, then I look forward to hopefully seeing you out on deck as we spot, hopefully, lots and lots of wildlife.
Yes. I was impressed. It never crossed my mind that you'd see so much from a cruise ship in the British Isles.
Yeah, it really surprised me too. So I'm hoping that cruise is Scandinavia, so I'm hoping we might see some different wildlife over there.
I'm just saying, my camera's deciding that it doesn't want to stop. It just wants to go left or right. There we go. Technology occasionally lets me down. Right, well, with that, Fraser, I shall carry on following Balmoral out, but I shall let you go. And just like to thank all my subscribers, PayPal donors, Patreons, members of the channel. And until next time, shipmates.
Queen Mary 2 BTS, that's all received, sir. Sam Mollo, Southampton BTS. Good evening again. Sam Mollo, Southampton BTS. That's all received. Have a safe run in, and we'll speak to you next time. 6, BTS, yes, so you may proceed if safe to do so, over.
Thank you.
Hope Detroit, Southampton BTS, that's all received, sir, and no immediate traffic for you, over.